Here's my philosophy on government policy. There's no problem created by government that government can't make much worse. And what government proposes to fix in society, it only makes more broken. I'm Michael Quinn Sullivan with a reflection on life and liberty. One of my favorite books on public policy is The Tragedy of American Compassion by Marvin Olasky. In it, he tracks the problems created when government seeks compassionately to alleviate people's misery. This is a gross oversimplification, but in essence, he finds that government just makes things worse. The so-called war on poverty has trapped generations of people in poverty. The war on drugs has made the problems of illicit drug use worse than ever. When the federal government proposes to solve a problem, it does so by spending money on bureaucracies and bureaucrats. It starts funding studies and launching pilot programs. The net effect is to create new classes of people, bureaucrats, agencies, recipients of grant money, all of them dependent on the problem not getting better. Indeed, since they're spending other people's money, those bureaucracies have an incentive to keep the problem alive. Almost fixing it, almost solving it, almost alleviating it, almost. And so with that in mind, I greeted the recent news President Joe Biden was going to be forgiving the federal student loan debt of certain politically desirable population groups. Make no mistake, the burden of student loans is heavy, but it's a burden created by Democrats and big government Republicans. For 2 decades, people have been encouraged, even shamed, into getting increasingly worthless degrees unrelated to their skills, passions, or interests. These are degrees that have no real-world use in the marketplace. Under such conditions, and when offered seemingly free money to pursue the much-vaunted bachelor's degree and delay their entry into adulthood, high schoolers respond. Due to that response, the demand is artificially driven up for products of questionable moral and fiscal value. As parents, we tolerate grammar and secondary schools preaching the value of having a college degree over being a productive and happy person. Because, of course, none of us want to dispute the person with a master's degree or seemingly discourage our kids from becoming astronauts. Meanwhile, this artificial demand has encouraged colleges and universities to jack up prices. That, in turn, has made the student loan debt all the worse. The relationship between universities and the federal government in the student loan debt scam is exactly the same as the hustler and the plant in Three Guard Monty. In that analogy, you're the mark. So now, like an arsonist who works the fire department, Joe Biden has a solution. That solution, of course, is to transfer the burden of the student loan debt to everyone else. Meanwhile, student loans for worthless degrees are still available, with universities charging ever higher tuitions, and a whole new generation sees those debts socialized. I'll say it again. There's no problem created by government that government can't make much worse. If you like today's Reflections podcast, be sure to subscribe, rate it, leave a review, and encourage your friends to listen. The Reflections podcast is presented by Texas Scorecard, and today's edition was produced by Luke Marshall in the 1836 studios. I'm Michael Quinn Sullivan. Thanks for listening.